In this video, we'll look at the new HTTP server response time metrics in AppNeta. This video was recorded while the new metrics are available in early access. The feature is expected to change in future releases, so keep an eye on AppNeta release notes for any changes. To monitor web application performance, AppNeta monitoring points test web applications at regular intervals. Monitoring can be configured either using a Selenium script to simulate user interactions in a browser or using direct HTTP requests to interact with a web API. The new HTTP server response metrics help users quickly identify the top contributors to HTTP response time. If a test fails or if there are delays in a web transaction, users can easily understand where the delay was introduced. And the download metrics help users detect when changes in download size affect performance. These metrics are available for all monitoring point types. This example web path uses an HTTP workflow. The previously existing HTTP response time chart shows the overall response time for the request in the workflow. And the new HTTP server response breakdown chart breaks that overall response time into the time spent at each phase of the web transaction. Hover over the chart to see the response time for a particular test and the test completion status. If a test fails to complete, the status line changes from green to black, and hovering over the status line shows more information about a test failure. The data bar includes a legend for the different phases in the chart and the timing breakdown for the highlighted test. The summary table provides the minimum, average, and maximum time taken at each phase during the selected time range, and the percentage column indicates the portion of the average total time taken at each phase of the web transaction. Let's look at what portion of the web transaction each metric measures. The total response time is the time between when the monitoring point begins DNS resolution and when the monitoring point receives the last byte of the response. The redirect time is the time taken by all requests that are redirected before the request is made to the final server. This time includes all aspects of a request that results in a 302 redirect, including the time taken for DNS lookups, for a TCP or SSL connection to be established, the request itself, and the response time. If the initial request is not redirected, the redirect time will be 0. If the redirect time is too high, and the redirects are within your control, look into factors that impact redirect time, such as the number of redirects, or if network latency is impacting the DNS resolution, SSL connection, wait and receive times from the first request. DNS lookup time helps identify if a DNS delay is impacting performance. DNS lookup is the time taken to resolve the IP address of the target domain. The DNS lookup time may be 0 if the IP address has already been resolved and is cached in the operating system. If DNS lookup time is high or there are errors, explore options to optimize DNS configurations to improve lookup time. The TCP connection time helps identify if performance is impacted by a network delay. TCP connection is the time taken to establish the TCP connection to the target. It is measured from the moment the initial TCP SYN packet is sent to start a connection until the point where the acknowledgement packet is received in response. If the TCP connection time is high, look into factors that can cause a network delay or a slow acknowledgement from the host. Check the related network path for any changes in TCP routing or other indicators of a network issue. But keep in mind that the network might treat ICMP packets used for network monitoring differently than TCP. If the TCP connection is unusually low, check for error messages. The SSL connection time helps identify if performance is impacted by a proxy delay. SSL connection is the time taken to complete the SSL handshake process between the monitoring point and the server. If the SSL connection time is high, look into reasons the SSL connector could be taking a long time, such as an issue with proxy server configuration or load, or whether any security devices that intercept and inspect SSL traffic, such as a CASB service, might be introducing an unacceptable delay. The request wait time and download time help identify if performance is impacted by a server delay. Request wait is the time interval from when an HTTP request is sent by the client until the first byte of the response is received from the target. If the request wait time is high, look into the factors that can contribute to a server delay, such as the server load. Download indicates the time taken to download the entire content of an HTTP response from the target. If a higher than usual download time is impacting performance, check the download chart to see if there's a corresponding increase in download size. The download chart plots the download speed and download size for HTTP responses over time. Download size tracks the number of bytes downloaded during a response to an HTTP request. Redirected requests are excluded from this metric. Download speed is the speed at which the content of an HTTP response from the target is downloaded. Speed is calculated as the total size of the downloaded content divided by the time taken to download it. Redirected requests are also excluded from this metric. If the download time is 0, such as if the entire response arrived along with the first byte, the download speed metric is not reported. If the download size is high, look at ways to reduce the download size, such as by considering whether any large images or scripts are really necessary. For browser workflows, click a data point to open the web drill down page for a test, then sort the resource list by size to identify the largest files. If the application in question is internally hosted, your organization might have control over optimizing download size. For third-party applications, if download size is impacting user experience, these results can help convince the vendor that the issue is on their side. So far, we've looked at the enhanced web metrics when monitoring with an HTTP workflow. Let's take a quick look at the new metrics when monitoring with a browser workflow. The previously existing transaction time chart shows the test completion status and timing for the full Selenium workflow, including all milestones. For a browser workflow, the HTTP server response breakdown chart breaks down the time until the first non-redirected request completes. Let's open a specific web test to see what that means. Here, we see a waterfall chart of every request. Since we're interested in the first request, I'll click the first milestone to filter the resource list. In this example, the initial request was redirected 3 times. The timings for each of the redirects are summed to make the redirect time in the new HTTP server response time chart. The blocking time for a redirect is omitted, since blocking is time spent in the browser and is not part of the network request. The remaining phases of the HTTP server response chart are taken from this first non-redirected request. On the web paths page, users can customize columns to see live stats for the new metrics. The live stats columns show results from the most recent test for each web path. For HTTP workflows, if the request fails, AppNeta tracks at which point in the web transaction the failure occurred. On the web paths page, the point of failure can be displayed as a column. On the web timeline page, errors are summarized for the selected time range as a count of failures by type. Click to expand and view detailed error messages. Or hover over the status bar to see the error for a specific time. Click a point on the chart to open the test results with any error messages. And click to view raw data from the previous or next test. For browser workflows, the point of failure, error counts, and the HTTP server response test completion status bar are not currently available. While in early access, our focus is to verify functionality and gather feedback about the new web metrics. For example, based on feedback for HTTP workflows, we will be combining the HTTP response time chart and the new HTTP server response breakdown chart and allowing users to select which chart they want displayed by default. To access the new charts during early access, head to the web timeline for any web path and click Try It Out from the banner. And reach out to your account representative if you're interested in providing feedback on this feature. Thank you for watching.